Hi there everybody, and welcome to this third lesson on using Google Presentations. In the previous lesson we saw how to insert videos and start to use animations. In this lesson I want to focus on two other really nifty features. The one is inserting slides from other presentations, and the other is to insert and format tables. But let's get started with inserting slides that come from previous presentations. Once again, here I'm in my Google Drive folder, and I'm going to click on linear equations to open up the presentation that we have been working on. And I would like to insert another slide into this presentation that is going to become slide number 5. And that's pretty simple to do. Click on Insert, and instead of a new slide down the bottom, I want to import slides from another presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you can see that Google Docs automatically shows me all of the presentations that I have in my Google Docs Drive. This is the presentation that I'm interested in. That's where the slide is. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And the next dialog box shows me all of the slides that are in this presentation. Now you can see that there is only one slide, so I've only got one option to select, but I'm going to select that. If there were other slides, I could go ahead and select each of the slides that I wanted to import. The checkbox down here is quite important. Whether you want to keep the original theme of the presentation that the slide comes with, which I don't. I want this slide to adopt the theme of the presentation that I'm currently working in. I'm going to go ahead and import those slides. There is worked example number 2, the slide that I've just imported, and you can see that it has adopted pretty much all of the formatting of my current presentation, except though that it's in the wrong place. I want this to be the current last slide. So once again, click and drag to move that slide right down to the bottom. I've got a little bit of formatting to do, which I'm going to quickly do now. That text is a little bit small, so I'm going to just increase its font size to 30. Yeah, that's more like it. And the other thing that I want to do though is I don't want this equation to span 2 lines. So I'd like to increase the width of this text box ever so slightly, and I'll need to decrease the width of this text box to compensate for that change. Now, because this is another worked example, I want to apply the same animations that I applied to the previous slide, remember, from the previous lesson. Let's go through that process again, just in case you weren't too comfortable with how to add animations. Select the object that you'd like to animate. Go to View, Animations. It's going to bring up this right-hand panel. Click on the Add Animation button and select the animation you like. Once again, remember consistency is important. I'm going to select Fade In, On Click, by paragraph, and make it the same speed. Remember, it was 0.5 seconds. Let's just check that that is correct. So the first thing that it's done though is it's activated our slide transition into the slide. Now I'm ready. Click, click, click. There it reveals. But I hope that you have noticed that there's one thing missing. We still need to apply our green box around this text box here. So let's go ahead and do that. We can close the animation panel because we're done with that. Now remember, consistency is important, and there's one more thing that we need to add to make the second worked example consistent with the first worked example, and that's that green box around the worked solution. So let's go ahead and add that. So there's the text box that I want to format. There's my line weight. We applied a line weight of 4. And we chose the theme color here of green. Now before we go ahead and insert the table, I just want to quickly show you how easy it is to insert hyperlinks to other objects and pages on the internet. I want to give the learners going through this presentation a little bit more practice solving linear equations, and I found this wonderful, wonderful game on the internet that they can practice until their heart's content. Let me show you how to insert that. For this, I'd like to insert a new slide, which is just a title only. And the title I'm going to add to it is Some More Practice. And instead of using a normal text-based hyperlink, I'm going to insert a shape. Just an ordinary rounded rectangle will do. There is the shape. Let's give this a little bit of formatting. Perhaps let's fill it with a color, theme green, and give it a nice border. Oh, theme dark blue will do. Let's maybe increase the font, the width of that. Okay, so there's my text box. I want to click on this to add in some text. Online game for linear equations. Let's do a little bit of formatting to that. Let's make the font bigger. Remember, consistency is important. In this case, maybe let's align it in the center. And now I'm ready to make this entire object a link to the website that I'm interested in. So select the text box and insert link. And we can paste the URL in that, and I can apply it. And now when users click on this box, they're going to be taken to that address. And I'll show you how that looks when we get onto the lesson where we actually show you how to present this presentation. So let's go ahead and quickly present or play our presentation so we can see if that link is actually working. You'll notice that there's a nice big present button at the top of the screen here. If we go ahead and click on that, it's going to load our presentation at the screen, at the slide that we were busy with. So if I click on that box now, you can see the box is a hyperlink because my mouse changes. Let's see what it opens. Oh, there we go. It's opened up this wonderful little game that learners can now use to practice solving linear equations. In this instance, they need to solve for the variable e. Now you'll notice that there's a nice big present button at the top of the screen, and if we click on that, it's going to launch the presentation at the slide that we were busy editing. Now you'll notice that this text box is now all a hyperlink. You can see that my mouse changes from the arrow to the hand. So if we click on this text box, it's going to open up the web page that I was interested in. And in this instance, learners need to solve for the variable b. We can close that tab. And now to get back to the edit view of our presentation, all that we need to do is go to the bottom menu and click on the exit button over there. Now it's time to enter that table. And the reason I want to use a table is because I want to present the learners going through this presentation with a multiple choice question that they can then answer to test their understanding. Let's go ahead and start that by inserting a title-only slide again. So from the button here at the top, using the drop-down menu, I'm going to insert a title-only slide. There it is. Quickly give it a heading of question 1. And inside the space over here, I'm going to insert a table. So go to the Insert menu, Table, and the size table I'm interested in is a 2 by 6 table. That one over there. Let's just drag the table more or less into position. And the first thing I want to do to the table is I want to merge those 2 cells in the top. Very simple to do. Simply click from the one cell and drag into the other cell. And now that those 2 cells are highlighted, I can right click and from this menu click on Merge Cells. And inside this merged cells, I want to type the actual question that I want learners to answer, which is identify the linear equation, or rather equations, below. Let's quickly do some formatting to that. Font size 30, change the text color to the blue for consistency, and now I'm ready to insert all my options. This question's got 5 options, So it's labeled A, B, C, D, and E. And I'm going to paste in the questions that I've pre-prepared from another document. There we go. Now, I hope you'll notice that this table doesn't look quite right. Firstly, the font isn't standardized according to our template, it's a little bit small. And secondly, I think that the left-hand column is a little bit wide. So let's go ahead and fix those two issues. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my mouse over this line here, and you can see that it changes into that double-headed arrow. As soon as it does, I can click and drag to make this column narrower. The other thing I want to do is I want to format all of this text. So I'm going to go ahead, select all of that at once, and I'm going to do some formatting to it. First thing I want to do is make it bigger, perhaps font size 30 again. Consistency is really important. Text color, keep the blue. And finally, things aren't quite aligned as I want them to be, so I'm going to go ahead and align my list of options here. And I want those to be aligned in the middle of each cell and in the center. And I want these to be aligned in the middle as well. Let's make that a little bit wider so we can see. And there is my multiple choice question ready for learners to answer. There's one last piece of formatting that I want to show you about this table, where we can format each and every border of each and every cell to be pretty much completely different. Really quite nice, but again, for the sake of your audience, use sparingly and use it with a meaning or a reason. I want to quickly just go ahead and just make this table a little bit taller so things aren't as squashed. And it's this line here that I want to make a little bit bolder, just to delineate the option numbers from the actual options themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of those cells over there. And you'll notice that as I do, this little drop-down menu appears. Click to select borders. And what I want to do is I want to format the right-hand border of all of those cells. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see that it has highlighted all of those borders at once because I selected all of those cells. And I'd like this border to be a little bit wider and also a different color. I'm going to use the red here. Let me just show you what that's done to my table. Can you see that it's highlighted the difference between these two cells? Option A is 3x is equal to 4x minus 3. Option B, etc. Option C. And it just makes the table a little bit easier to read. Perhaps the last thing to do here is just to make this text align in the center of this cell. Oops, that one over there. Make it in the middle. And I think that our question is ready for prime time. Well, we've spent about 3 lessons working on this presentation, but we haven't yet looked at it from start to finish. So let me show you how to do that. We saw earlier that if you click on just the Present button, it starts the presentation at the current active slide. But this drop-down menu over here gives you the option of presenting from the beginning. So let's go ahead and do that so we can just check our presentation from the beginning. We just allow the full screen view. So, linear equations, grade 10 mathematics. There's our first slide, revising linear equations with our bullets and our nice pretty picture. The video that we can click to play whenever we want. Our first worked example with the worked solution. Our second worked example with its worked solution. The more practice slide where learners can go to that online linear equations practice game. And finally, the first of our multiple choice questions. Well, thanks so much for joining me for this lesson. I hope you've learned to stack. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at the last few features in Google Presentations. Commenting, sharing, and how to make your own specific presentation template. But until then, I wish you well. Bye-bye.